What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown, and this is Heresy Financial. The stock market just got the absolute best jobs report that it could have possibly asked for, bringing the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ to record highs. And so in this video, we are going to look at the details of this jobs report and look at why it was so good for the stock market when in reality it wasn't that great of a jobs report itself. Ready? Let's dive in. June saw a gain of about 850,000 jobs for the US economy. Now, we all know the Federal Reserve, they've got two mandates from Congress. They've got stable prices and full employment. And recently, they've been very outspoken about saying, hey, full employment, that's what we're shooting for, and we're going to kind of ignore inflation. So whatever happens over here, we're going to just focus on trying to get to full employment. That brings the total to about 6.7 million jobs still missing since March of 2020. If we take a look at this chart, you can see the top red line. This is basically what jobs would have been like had COVID not happened. The orange line is obviously going to be what jobs actually did. And right where that gray line comes down the middle, that is present. Everything to the right of that is just a projection into the future based on current trends. This means it would be well into 2024 before employment fully recovers to the pre-COVID trend. That's assuming we continue with the current trend. And this trend line has already flattened out once. As you can see here, if it would have continued along this trend line, it would have recovered a lot faster. Obviously, we've flattened out since then, so who's to say that this trend line will persist? Now, the Federal Reserve has obviously been extremely vague with its metrics to the public on what they're looking for in the jobs market before they make any adjustments to monetary policy. They've said things like they're looking for substantial further progress and maximum employment. But to be honest, it's very unclear what these actually mean. And that's fully intentional so that they can give themselves the wiggle room they need to say, hey, we're not deviating from course, we're proceeding as planned, because basically any action they can say was planned. Regardless of this, the market just ate up these jobs numbers with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ closing at record highs. And this is because, in the words of Daryl Cronk, which, by the way, fantastic name, Daryl Cronk, Chief Investment Officer at Wells Fargo, said that this was a Goldilocks report for the markets. It's basically like, hey, there's been some progress, which is good overall for the economy, but not so much progress that we're worried about the Federal Reserve coming out and raising rates much sooner than expected. Because let's be honest, if this report had come out and America is 100% back to work, everybody had a job, we were above the pre-COVID trend line, immediately that would force the Federal Reserve into doing something then about its inflation numbers, because it's met its employment target. Now it's got to do something about the out of control inflation, which, by the way, the higher and higher employment numbers go, the higher and higher inflation is going to go, because that's more income into the hands of American spenders. But that's beside the point, story for another time. The bottom line is that if these employment numbers were really, really great, the stock market would have probably tanked in anticipation of the Federal Reserve immediately having to start tightening. But the reality is Americans are not all back to work, and that is good for the stock market because that means continued easy money. And to be honest, it's not too shabby for a lot of Americans right now. In fact, if you're looking for a job, this is likely the best opportunity you will have in your lifetime to get a job that you want. Right now, there are a record 9.3 million job openings. Now, many people have rightly pointed out that this has a lot to do with the amount of money that American households are receiving from the government. This has put pressure on employers to do what our commander-in-chief suggested while he was practicing his ASMR recently: pay them more. And in fact, employers aren't just raising wages, they're even offering signing bonuses for entry-level jobs. According to Indeed, 4.1% of job postings had hiring incentives like signing bonuses, which is more than double the 1.8% with hiring incentives from July of last year. Now, I've made plenty of videos in the past about why the government seeks inflation. It's because it makes their debt load easier to pay. If you can decrease the value of each individual unit of that debt that you owe, that makes your total debt burden lighter. But the key is that most people don't point out is that that's the same thing as saying if you can cause your income to go up, that makes it easier to pay off your debt. It's two sides of the same coin. Because let's say you're sitting at home, you've got your house payment, your car payment, your grocery bills. So you've got some debt and some expenses, and now you have inflation happen, and let's say your grocery bill doubles. At that point, your life is not easier. Inflation did not help erase your debt. However, if you're one of these people getting a new job and getting a sign-up bonus, and you're one of these people with 2 or 3 kids, one of them under the age of 6, and you're going to start collecting $500 to $900 every single month starting this month, July 15th, from the government, guess what? The government printed money, which has caused inflation to go up, but your income also went up as well. Now, obviously, the main beneficiary of this is going to be the government and large corporations. There's no question about it. But if you play your hand right, many individuals and households have had their incomes go up this year and last year as well. And so this is why I always say that you technically want to have debt if you want to be able to profit from inflation, because when inflation happens, by and large, it causes incomes to go up, which makes that debt easier to pay off. It lightens the debt load. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. More money printing, more money sent out in checks to families, putting the squeeze on corporations, causing them to have to pay more to attract labor. And finally, if you're looking for a way to increase your income and you've always wanted to make a career jump into something like web development, but you've tried the online free tools, they're unhelpful, but going back to school is just too expensive, try Lambda School, which offers a unique approach of, number one, teaching you to code, and then number 2, you don't have to pay a single dime in tuition until you land a high-paying job. If you're interested in giving yourself the skills to be able to jump into a lucrative career, check out Lambda School. I've got them linked in the description below. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.